What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to Maps Exposed. This is the series where I cover all of the hotspots, lines of sight, secrets, as well as all of the most common spawn locations on every map in Black Ops 4 multiplayer. In today's episode, we're going to be covering Payload, and first up, as always, let's have a look at the hotspots. Keep in mind these hotspots are pretty much limited to linear team-based modes, so it doesn't really apply too much to free-for-all or hardpoint because those are going to be quite different. In most linear team-based game modes, the hotspot is going to be this area right here. This is right around the B domination flag. You've got the window and then the opposite spot there where people will often fight back and forth. We've also got that elevated position just over top of the B domination flag. That is a really common area right there. And then the entryway into the tunnel area. If you're ever looking for a fight in most game modes, these are the places you'll most commonly find people. Now, I did also want to mention that these hotspots will sometimes extend a little bit into these areas here if one team starts gaining the upper hand over another team and they start to push up a little bit more. So definitely keep an eye out for that. If you start getting pushed back into your spawn, the hotspots will actually move closer to your spawn. But in general, this is where most of the action goes on Payload. The entire bottom half of the map and even the middle of the map are generally just used as flank routes, with the exception of something like Control, where you have a control point on that one tunnel side of the map. Now again, just like with every episode, I feel like I have to state there are exceptions to this where sometimes certain teams will just like the bottom half of the map instead of the top half of the map for whatever reason. But more often than not, you will be finding the fights towards the top half of the map where the B domination flag is. So now that we have those hotspots covered, let's get into some of the lines of sight as well as any other sort of secrets that I was able to find on this map. So first up, starting over by the C domination flag, if you start getting pushed back into your spawn, a lot of times people will sit up in this area right here, and they'll just wait for you to come around the corner and they'll pick you off very, very easily. So a great way to challenge them, or at least just check for that spot as you're coming out of this spawn, is simply jump up on top of this and then strafe out like that. As you can see there, you get a great line of sight over top of this piece of cover here. They won't normally expect this, and usually you'll be able to pick them off before they realize what's happening. Next up, if you are pushing up into this area right here, I see a lot of people that sit right in this spot here, which seems like it would be a good spot. It is the exact opposite of that window there, but this is exactly where they expect you to be. So instead, just a slight alternative. I prefer jumping up like this and using this for cover. You get better cover out of this. You can crouch to take cover. However, one thing to keep in mind is they can spray through these TVs quite easily without losing much bullet damage. It's more so just used as concealment rather than cover. One really nice thing about this, though, is if you crouch, you can come just to this spot here and you get a perfect line of sight on the people up in that window. I wouldn't necessarily camp there all game, but it's just something to know about if you want to challenge people that are in that window, or if you want to check that window safely. Let's just say you come in the room right here. You can jump up here, crouch, and then just kind of strafe your way over, have a look, see if somebody's in the window. You might be able to take a few shots on them there, or if you want to make it easier, just stand up and pick them off from there. Now, another thing in this same area here, if you're approaching the top area like this, I see a lot of people either just mantle straight up like this, pretty much blindly. They can't see what's going on above them, or they'll just come up the stairs like this and expose their whole body. The best way to challenge that is to jump up on this yellow railing right here and then walk up like that. This gives you excellent cover, and it allows you to approach the situation safely while being able to challenge anybody that comes in your line of sight. Now, moving over towards the B domination flag right here, if you end up getting yourself in this position here, you're kind of stuck. You can't actually jump up here, at least not easily. I mean, if you had a grapple like I do right now, you could easily get up there. But for the most part, you're kind of stuck here, and the only way out is like this. Or at least that's what I thought. Technically speaking, there is a bit of a ledge here that you can walk across, but it is very difficult to stay on this. I'm most likely even going to die trying this. So I don't know how practical it is to use in a real game, but it is possible to get across there. And maybe in some really specific situation, you'll make that work in your favor. Now, another thing over in this area is there is something you can interact with on this side right here and the exact opposite over here. Just in case you guys haven't seen this, I'm sure most of you guys know about this, but when you interact with it, what it does is it lowers this catwalk right here, which allows you now to, from down here, mantle up like that without having to mantle up into this area first. Now, coming from the A domination spawns, if you want to be attacking people in the middle area here, instead of trying to use this as cover like this and like half of your body is actually sticking out when you do that, or instead of coming to this spot here or this spot right here, which is right where they'll be pre-aiming and expecting you to be, what I like to do instead is jump up onto this ledge right here. Not all the way up, just partially up like this. If you crouch, you're completely hidden from them. Stand up, you get a great line of sight on those people or on the B flag or anybody that might be in this open area here or behind the forklift. This is a much better way to challenge people in that room. Something really similar that you can do if you're attacking towards the A domination spawns and you have enemies that are coming out of that spawn, this will often happen towards the end of a safeguard round as you're trying to push this robot over towards those spawns. Instead of challenging them like this or coming up to this piece of cover like that, once again, you can simply mantle up right here, and that gives you a much better piece of cover and a slight height advantage over the people that are coming out of the spawn from there. In addition to that, to take this one step further, this one's a bit riskier though. Once it's clear over in this area here, you can mantle up like that, and you can peek over top of the rock right here. They won't be able to sneak along this edge under your line of sight very well. You'll be able to see their elbow or something as they come around there, so you'll be able to easily pick people off as they come through there. And with that, unfortunately, that's pretty much it when it comes to lines of sight as well as unique spots on this map. They really managed to keep things super tight here, so they didn't really leave much room for the imagination on Payload, which in some ways is a good thing, but in other ways it's a little bit disappointing. But now it's time to move on to the most common spawn points on Payload. Once again, these are the most common spawn points you'll be finding in linear team-based mode. So like TDM, Kill Confirmed, Domination, Safeguard for instance. These are the spawn points you'll find most of the time. And first up, let's have a look at the primary spawns. The primary spawns of this map are actually quite limited. We got a couple spawn points over towards the C domination flag here, right at the back of the map, pretty much right where you'd expect them to be. And same thing goes over towards the A side of the map, although there is also that one primary spawn that's inside the building next to the A flag. But as for the other two, those ones are exactly where you'd expect them to be. So when it comes to primary spawns, nothing really too surprising here, aside from the fact that there aren't very many primary spawns. Things actually do start to get pretty interesting though when you start throwing secondary spawns in, because unlike many of the other Black Ops 4 maps, the secondary spawns are spread out quite a bit, and some of them are pushed right up towards the middle map areas. So as you can see, we've got a pretty good collection of spawns towards the bottom side of the map as you're looking at it right now, and some of those spawns are pushed right up towards the middle areas of the map. And then we've also got a couple secondary spawns towards the top side of the map as you're looking at it right now. Keep in mind, if you're spawning at one of these red spawn points, this almost definitely means that you have an enemy that has pushed right up into your primary spawn and therefore pushed your spawn out. So just be aware of that. If you spawn at one of these spawns, you've almost definitely got an enemy in your spawn area. And with that, that's going to wrap it up for today's episode of Maps Exposed on Payload. As always with this series, I'd like to know in the comment section below, what do you guys think about Payload? Do you think it's a good map, bad map, somewhere in between? For me personally, I kind of like Payload, although the one thing that I'm not a big fan of is not much of the map tends to be utilized. Like we saw at the beginning when I was going through the hotspots, the tunnel area of the map, that whole side of the map, in a lot of different game modes is pretty much never touched. It's just a flank route and that's it. Almost all of the action goes on in such a small area of the map, which I feel is just like slightly disappointing, but really not that big of a deal. I still enjoy myself while playing on Payload. If you guys have missed any of the previous episodes of Maps Exposed, I will leave a link to the playlist down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.
Yeah.